Hello and welcome to Access Chat. I'm delighted that we're joined by multiple guests today. So we've got Catherine Grinyer, Shani Dhanda and Orla Pearson. And whilst they're all doing separate things, they also all collaborate on accessible events and have been part of running the Accessible Event Show, which is something that we wanted to talk about today. Catherine runs Attendable, Orla, my ClearText and Access Loop, and Shani is the most influential person with a disability in the UK, according to the Disability 100 Index. Great to have you all with us. Who do we start with? Who wants to start? Catherine,
Start with Catherine.
Yeah, Catherine, come on.
Because
it's events. And
okay.
I've been to plenty that you've run that have done a fantastic job and have been really inclusive because your company's Eventable.
It's attendable, but yeah, almost. That's okay. Don't worry.
I'm failing miserable.
No, it's close. Eventable would have been a better name, actually. Eventable would have been a better name, but I think there's a platform that's
there is a platform
that's closely linked to that. But let's not talk about them.
No, and yes, okay. So I can't get any sentence out straight, but yes, please. So you're running Attendable. Tell us a bit about Attendable, and then we can run into the rest of the story.
Sure. So specialist events agency, consultancy, looking at how to deliver more accessible and inclusive events. And my background is I've been in the disability inclusion arena for about 20 odd or more years. Who's counting? And I recognise a sort of gap in the market for events in the disability inclusion space that were looking to understand how they could put into practice in events what they did in other areas of their organisation's employment, recruitment, customer service, and events were sort of left behind. And that's what where the idea for Attendable came. So yeah, we do a lot of events that if you're in the space that you may have come to, like TechShare Pro, the Tech for Good Awards, the Disability Power 100 when it was still running, all good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you. Yeah, and I have been to some, and somewhere Shani's been up there. So Shani, I'm being slightly tongue in cheek because I mean you were voted as the most influential disabled person in the UK by the Disability Power 100 Awards because of the work you do, not just because you're
not because I just exist.
You're charming. Yeah, just exactly. So and you've been doing a lot of advocacy work in the disability space for a long time. We met at various different conferences and talks, and I've twisted your arm over the years to get you on, and this is the first time we succeeded.
Yeah.
So welcome to the show.
Can you
tell our international audience, the ones that don't get to watch daytime TV in the UK, who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I run an accessibility consultancy. So I work with lots of different businesses and brands and amazing people across those different organisations to help them with everything to do with accessibility and disability inclusion. I worked in-house at Virgin Media doing that for 6.5 years. And then I set up my own consultancy. And yeah, no 2 days are the same. Done some really cool stuff. Really, really love it. And I'm also a broadcaster on daytime TV and radio. But I guess a bit of a fun fact about me is that my career started in events. And I studied event management at university. I have a visible disability, but in my 10 years in events, I never met another disabled person, at least not with a visible disability. So yeah, I'm excited to talk more about the show.
Orla.
Yes, me. I've worked my whole career in kind of deaf access, really. I worked with the BBC for about 15 years developing live captioning for broadcast, so that didn't exist when I started at the BBC back in the 90s. And there was a huge investment by the BBC to try and push really high quality live captioning as a marker for other channels, so that Channel 4, ITV would then all follow suit. And that did happen. A lot of people from the BBC are now working in Channel 4 and ITV and all sorts of places. And then I just, things were changing. It was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I felt I'd done my job. So I came out and started working freelance. And what I noticed when I was working freelance is just how varied access was at events. There was people who were really good, people who weren't very good. And there was nobody organising them or helping the people who are trying to do this accessibility. So I started a company called ClearText, and we took over that whole responsibility. So the client would come to us and we would have a journey with them, and we'd tell them why they were doing it, how to do it, and we'd support them along the way. And and the captioners then would be supported too. So we've been doing that very successfully for the last 15 years. And then the last 4 years during lockdown, I really found it difficult technically to get captions onto anything. So AI captions were being relied on. We had a lot of feedback from deaf people saying we're locked out again. So we created a platform that made it really, really easy to add live captioning, overlaid, closed captioning, any kind of captioning to events that are live streamed or in rooms. So we've been doing that for the last 4 years, and that is called Access Loop. It's very easy to use, and the results are really, really great as well. So that's me. Then the Accessible Events Show, because I was invariably asked over the years to sit on panels and talk about accessibility. So it became, well, it was always a passion, but it was nice to be able to talk about my passion too. So, and that's how we all ended up here together, doing stuff in our own spaces and getting so far, but realizing if we came together that we would be much stronger and much more forceful. And that's definitely come true.
Orla, I want to thank you for your organization, ClearText, being behind accessibility and captioning for Access Chat for 12 years. So not that we're endorsing you, we're endorsing you. We're endorsing you.
Endorse me.
Thank you, we're endorsing you.
You're very welcome. We love Access Chat, and we always want to support. We do our best to support as many things as we can.
Well, we're grateful. We're grateful for the support. And I know that so many times I go to, when I've gone to different conferences, they are not accessible to the people that they're talking about. So bravo for what you're doing. So, okay, I just want to make that quick comment, and I'll let y'all decide who wants to go next.
Neil.
Requires me to unmute. What kind of, so you started the show. What kind of people do you get coming to the show, and what's the intent behind in the show? Is it to match people up with other suppliers, to teach people about the skills that they need, or is it a range of things that sort of go into the mix? Because as has been clear, it's not a well-served area. There are not enough people with the skills providing services to make events universally accessible. So tell us a bit more about the actual show, and I'm assuming there's going to be a 2026 version.
There is, yeah.
27.
There is. Maybe I'll just leap in. So we wanted to draw a line in the sand or set a marker, or whatever expression we want to use, to the events industry in the UK and beyond, to get better at making their events more accessible and inclusive. I think post-pandemic, there was a big push on sustainability of events. The events industry really suffered during the pandemic, and things are picking up. But there's no excuse not to be making your event accessible and inclusive for disabled people. So that was the kind of idea behind the show, that between us we had I think Shani totted up the amount of years that we have experienced an event, 100 more, I don't know, a lot. And we worked on lots of events, sometimes together and sometimes not. And so we knew that we had a sort of body of best practice at our fingertips. We know some of the organisations that are there in the UK that are delivering consistently accessible events, or are on that journey towards, learning to do more. So there's some good practice out there. There's a lot of inconsistencies. And the idea behind the show was really to bring event professionals together to, first of all, understand that they need to do something, and then help to share the knowledge and best practice of how, and also provide the solutions for them to connect with specialist providers in the event accessibility space that can help them work through that journey. Shana and Orla, feel free to jump in.
I mean, I think what we want to achieve in the end is that every event would be accessible in some way, or we'll have thought about it, and we'll have considered it and discussed it. That's the aim. We really do want to see a proper change in the industry, and this stopping of it excluding people from events. And I think, there's a number of ways of us doing that. First of all, it was having a show to say, do you know what, this is worth having a show about. And then, now it's about education and not demand, but a real ask of people to start thinking about making events accessible. We were really well supported by an act that came into effect last year in Europe, which is the European Accessibility Act, which if you want to write a script for how to do your event, then comply with that. And it's fantastic. And people are only waking up to it now. I've been asked, how do I get around it? I've also been asked, is there like a period of grace time? The answer is you can't get around it, and there is no grace period. It's in effect now. So if you're working in Europe or with clients in Europe, it applies to you, and you're breaking the law if you don't do it. So I'm delighted to welcome any legal things that help us say what we're saying. But I'm hoping that's going to really push people towards the show as well.
And just to add a bit of context around the amount of barriers that disabled delegates face, there was some research that was released recently called Access All Areas, closing the accessibility gap in events. And it was based here in the UK, but it found that 1 in 3 delegates identifying with a visible or non-visible health condition or an impairment are attending events, and that 93% are facing barriers to participation at events as well. And there's also been some other research by Accessible, who have done some great research around what disabled people or those living with health conditions and impairments, what information they look at in order to make a decision on whether they want to go to an event or not. And I think it was a mixture of us, all 3 of us, just constantly saying the same things to each other, feeling quite frustrated.
There may have been wine involved.
There was.
Yeah. Yeah. I attend hundreds of events myself as a speaker, and it's shocking that I've been, it's not a surprise that I'm disabled. That's the reason I'm usually there. People know why they're booking me, and I barely ever get asked what my access requirements are, but everyone will always ask me what my dietary requirements are. So in a nutshell, we are trying to redefine what good looks like in this space for events. I don't really think it's been attempted before, even though, as we all know, accessibility does have legal obligations. So we're just trying to help the industry get to where it really needs to be.
And could I just say, we're remiss of us, the event's called the Accessible Event Show. Neil, to answer your question, yes, we are back for 2026 on the 29th of October in the Drum in Wembley in London. And also very excited to share that there will be a US edition of the Accessible Event Show on the 4th of December in DC, or I think it may be Virginia, but it's Accessible Events Show USA. And so we'll hopefully be taking some of the same messages to the American audience as well.
We have our wonderful sponsor, HSBC, which has come back again to support us again because they really believe in what we're doing around accessibility.
So we have different types of events. We have small events. People run events almost for free. We have events who are very expensive, where high paid speakers. We also have different actors in the event scene. You have organizations that want to organize the event, and then they hire an agency, and then we have venues. So sometimes, where is the point of sale here? How you make sure that you reach the right stakeholder that buys in on the accessibility of the event, and that when you talk with them about accessibility, they do understand what accessibility is about. It's not just a ramp that needs to be put at the door. There's something a lot more behind all that.
I think once you explain to people why they're doing it and who is their audience that they're trying to include, it's like when we're talking to clients who want to try captioning. Once I explain to them that captioning is not about one person requesting, it's about the 18 million people who have some form of hearing loss or deafness in the UK. That's 1 in 5 people. When it's 1 in 4 people who are disabled, when you tell them about people with English as a second language finding captioning really, really, really useful. It's when you tell them that people with neurodiversity access the captions in them and that way. And that's just captioning. One part of the accessibility is when we're talking about all of the accessibility, there's an easy buy-in there once you explain to people that you're including people, which is what you should be doing anyway. People find it very quick, but then we get to the next bit, which is budget, communication, rollout, values, that's where I think it gets tricky. You can always get buy-in, but then people have to back it up by actually doing it. I don't know if that's your experience, Catherine. Budget always comes up.
Orla,
Yeah.
Sorry, Catherine. You mentioned you were talking about people that are hard of hearing and deaf. I just want to tell you something that I found very disturbing, and time is so weird for me now, but I think it was about 10 years ago. And I started noticing that we were not inviting deaf speakers. And so out of curiosity, it might have been 15 years ago, but out of curiosity, I went and I reached out to a bunch of the disability events that were happening. And I was asking some of them confidentially, and I will keep it confidential. I don't see deaf speakers on your, bios. And they were, Deborah, we don't know how to do that. And we're finding that if we have to do that, we have to also provide captioning and support, there. For both the speakers and the audience. And so I was like, oh my gosh. So we are leaving out big parts of our community as speakers because we don't want to include them ourselves. So I'm very focused on the disability mirror, which is turning the mirror back on our disability community so we can be including ourselves. But I just think what you're doing is so powerful. So it isn't just for people attending. Also, people with disabilities should be able to speak and be part of the conferences. So, Catherine, I'm so sorry that I accidentally stepped on you. So let me turn that over to you.
Perfect. Until Catherine up, because I always associate the mantra, what about the speakers with Catherine?
I always say when we're planning an event, you've got to consider, and we're briefing a production company, or you're doing the stage transitions. Have you considered, you're talking about microphones. I had this just the other week. Have you considered that not everybody might be able to use the handheld mic that you're providing? So what alternatives do you have should this be the case? This always panic and confusion, but we need to consider everybody's needs in the event, not just the participants, but also the speakers and also staff that are working on the event as well, because they may also have access requirements.
And a big consideration of our show is how the disability community actually benefits from it. So we made sure that we had a whole panel of disabled people at the first show. They had different types of health conditions and disabilities and impairments. They all came with their own lived experience. Our bar supplier, they hire disabled staff and train them. We're, for our next show, we're looking into caterers that train disabled people to work in that industry, because I don't know, I've been reflecting on the fact lately, I think similar to you, Deborah, the point you mentioned there is there's so much happening because of the disability community, but are we actually benefiting from it? Do we get opportunities off the back of that? So even though the Accessible Event Show is marketed to the event industry, it is open to everybody, whether or not you're disabled. So yeah, we're that is always at the forefront of our mind as well.
And thank you, because I think that's really key. And not engaged enough, especially, as Deborah said, the deaf and hard of hearing community, and people are afraid of getting things wrong, but they're also afraid of spending money, as Orla said. But there are lots and lots of elements of what you're doing that don't cost much money and that also can generate more money. And people, I think, often with accessibility only see the costs and not the benefits. And I think that I'm assuming that you're doing a grand job on actually painting the sort of profitability of holding inclusive events and everything else. I know Catherine's got to get off soon because she's got another appointment. So I'm going to let Catherine have the last word on this, because she can also tell you how you can come to the various different event shows, where we can find you. I know you've said the drum already, and there's a URL that's about to go live, or hopefully should be live by the time that this goes out. And also, for if people that are interested, and I know there are some interested in the Washington, D.C., Virginia environs, particularly, where they can find out about that particular version of the show as well. Thank you.
Yeah, so the website is accessibleenventshow.com. It's currently having a little bit of a facelift while we get ready for the registrations to go live for this year's event. So the best place at the moment to follow us is on LinkedIn, on social media. Shani, what other channels are we on? I think some of the others. Shani's our social media guru.
Yeah, we're mainly on LinkedIn. We'll be on Instagram soon as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's free to attend, and obviously we hope lots of people come in, and the live stream will also be accessible to anybody, and that's also free. Last year we had people from all over the world attending, which was amazing. And, with Access Loop, we were able to provide translations also for localized content, which is a different type of accessibility, but also not unimportant. So yeah, that's great. I think it's a growing area, and I think there's lots that people can learn. So we're currently sort of scouring around for some interesting case studies to share with everybody, and hope to have a bit more of a deeper dive into some of the more technical aspects of event production this year. And because I think that's an area where there is definitely some quick wins for event planners and producers in understanding the technology that can help make events more accessible to their audiences and their speakers. So yeah, I think we'd love everybody to check out the show.
Yeah, fantastic. Look forward to it. And sorry, this is a shorter episode than normal. As with lots of events and online things, we had some technical difficulties. So I'm going to close it here so that we all look immaculate and say thank you to Orla, my ClearText, as I said, for all of the support you've given us over the years. Thank you to Amazon for continuing to support us and keep us on air as well. And if you're listening to this and it resonates with you, please do follow us, do subscribe to the podcast, or share it with people that you think might be interested, because we want people to learn about fantastic initiatives like this one. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks to Access Chat for hosting us, and yeah, great to be here.
And the show is open to anybody who's involved in the production, in the organising, in the technicalities of events. They're the people we want to see at the show, because they're the people we want to educate and really allow them to learn about how to do this properly, so that they can do a different job and do a better job next time.
Absolutely. Let's raise the floor.
Yes.
We need it. We need it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for the support and everything.